Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune in, you'll want to know that this is the show that gives visibility to the top voices in consumer goods and retail in Europe and indeed beyond. We are now over 180 episodes in, so do go into our website or your favorite podcast platform to entertain yourself and be educated with some of the industry's top voices. Also, we are part of a family of podcasts headed by the CPG guys in the US. So tune into their show to learn about what's happening in the consumer goods omni-channel world at the other side of the Atlantic in the US. They're 400 episodes and have 33,000 followers on LinkedIn. So that should be enough of a reason for you to go and check them out. And also remember to follow us on LinkedIn as well, where you'll join a community of 16,000 members and counting. You can also now find us on Instagram, by the way. And today we're speaking about one of the hottest topics in our industry today, and it's no other than retail media. And to do this, we have two leaders of two of the most exciting companies in the space. On one side, we have Jack Johnson, who's the head of retail media and data at Ocado Retail, one of the pioneers of grocery e-com. And at the other side, we have Nick Hinsley, who's the chief revenue officer at Zitcha, the unified retail media network platform. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. How are you?
Hey, Daniel. I'm great. Thank you. G'day, Jack. It's fantastic to be here. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Hey, Daniel. Hi, Nick. And likewise.
I was just talking to you about how warm it is here in Barcelona in the summer. Nick, how are you suffering the Australian winter?
We're coming towards the end of the winter. We hit maybe 2 degrees Celsius last week, but we're looking forward to the new month and spring ahead for sure.
Yeah, I know you're more of a summer guy as well, so
yeah.
So am I. So I hope it goes fast for you. And I'm not looking forward to winter at all. Jack, you're in the UK, so I won't even ask you about the weather up there.
No, but this is great. I mean, any weather chat as a Brit, this is right up my street. All good.
Classic icebreaker. So Jack, since you were the last that spoke, can you tell us a bit about your role at Ocado and a bit about Ocado Retail?
Yeah, indeed. So, hi, Daniel. Hi, Nick again, and thanks for having me. So, Ocado, my role as head of retail media and data is all around how we can deliver, the best services and the best value to our supplier partners through the role of retail media and retail data. But it's always worth taking a bit of a step back. So, Ocado Retail is at the heart of it a growth story. So, it is now the world's largest online-only supermarket. We were concepted sort of the early 2000s. And since there, we have had historical double-digit growth. We are now, as the time of this recording of the podcast, the fastest growing retailer in the UK for the 6th period in a row. We have, over the last year, grown to over 1 million active customers. And now we command about a 15% share of the online grocery market here in the UK. So for those that don't know about Ocado Retail, it's a joint venture between Marks and Spencer's and Ocado Group. So we are the home of M&S Food online within the UK. And we leverage all of the Ocado Group technology to power all of the AI-generated robotics that allow us to deliver groceries to customers' front doors. So that online operating model is fascinating and delivers us an amazing sort of value proposition to our customers. We have an enormous range, up to 50,000 products, which is, over two times the size of a large hypermarket here in the UK. We're a champion of small brands. We are the home of innovation within the UK. And we pioneered retail media within the digital space, for over 20 years. So it's a really exciting business to be working at, and is ultimately a growth journey at its heart.
Yeah, I mean, Ocado is like such a success story, if you like, because you don't have anything similar to it practically in any other market, like a grocery pure player that's like been so successful during so much time. I mean, even when I started in consumer goods in 2013, they were already like the number one, and then they've maintained that position with very strong competition from other brands that we all know about. So
yeah, it's interesting when you think about the UK market, because you walk up and down the high street and you'll see a lot of the same brands, a lot of the same supermarkets that existed 20 years ago. Obviously, we've had some retailers that have exited the market, but it's been relatively static from a bricks and mortar perspective. But online is where our roots are, and we've been arguably the most disruptive force within that channel. So yeah, we definitely want to bring that attitude and that DNA to the world of retail media and retail data as well.
Awesome. And Nick, can you tell us a bit about your role at Zitcha and what Zitcha is as well?
Sure. So my role at Zitcha is Chief Revenue Officer. I support all of the revenue functions within the organisation globally. Zitcha as a business was founded 4 years ago. We were the first and continue to be the only retail media platform that has the ability for planning, buying, uploading creative, digitally ad serving, and reporting across the three main channels, being on-site, off-site, and in-store. We now have customers in 7 countries across Australia, New Zealand, UK, US, Canada, Switzerland, and South Africa. We are headquartered here in Australia, but we have teams now across the world. And relevant to this conversation, launched in the UK, which is now servicing EMEA earlier this year on the back of a really valued partnership with Ocado, which is exciting to talk about today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's crazy to think you've only been around for 4 years. Like, your name is really out there in the industry. I wasn't aware. I thought you'd been around for like 10 years. And you just made 2 great hires in the UK with Darren and Dan as well. So since we met very recently, actually, at Shop Talk, the US, you've already done a lot in this period of time when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was employee number 15 18 months ago. We're now over 50. And yeah, as I mentioned, we're working with retailers across the globe, and typically enterprise retailers that have stood up or have incumbents within their retail media network. So, of course, we work with Ocado, we work with Coles Grocery and Liquor here in Australia, second largest grocer. We work with Endeavour Drinks Group here in Australia, which is the largest liquor outlet. And then the likes of Leroy Mill and the third largest DIY retailer as well. So, I mean, this space, retail media, is growing so rapidly. And I think what retail media networks are looking for is innovation, and particularly around like critical stages around planning, but also activation across channels that continue
absolutely.
to grow.
And exciting that you're working with Ocado. Was gonna mention that you're launching now, Jack, Ocado Ads. So this is a brand new retail media network. What is it, and how does it fit into like the overall business strategy that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a question we're going to get a lot when we launch Ocado Ads, which is what is it? So I think, look, the first question we're going to get from a lot of our advertiser partners, our suppliers, is going to be, you guys have been doing retail media for over 20 years. What's new? And I think the truth is that we're trying to face into a recognition that things have completely changed, not least in the advertising industry, which, the invent of digital channels and first-party data and, all of the expectations that are coming from marketeers in that space. But more importantly for us, the changing dynamics between retailers and suppliers, with retail media becoming a really important cornerstone of that relationship that we have together. So this is not just about some new exciting stuff that will come alongside the Ocado Ads launch, and we'll talk about what we're doing with our Ocado Ads Manager, which is powered by Zitcha. But it's also a bit of a repackaging of what we're already doing, and actually giving us a platform to be really loud and proud about our heritage of pioneering digital retail media in the UK, over 20 years ago. And I think, I mentioned this at the top, but the heart of Ocado Ads is going to be about growth. We know that the history of Ocado retail as a supermarket is at its heart a growth journey, and we want to take the DNA that has existed within the grocery space and apply that to the advertising industry. And we are really, really excited to sort of anchor all of Ocado Ads around a growth message, and it will be the engine that will power your growth with Ocado, which has historically delivered growth and will deliver growth in the future. So. In summary, Ocado Ads is going to be the growth engine for brands and advertisers to leverage media assets, data, and insights. And we're really excited to get going
because you have like that digital first, obviously ingrained in your DNA. So I think that one of the reasons, or maybe the main reason why retail media has become such a boom, is that it's been an initiative on the retail side that brands have really bought into, at the end of the day. So brands are like investing and really, they've had to like rethink their whole strategy and their whole structure internally, even to adapt to retail media. So it's going to be interesting to see how you guys do it as well.
Yeah, and I think and if you think about how we've been asking our questions about how we want to set ourselves up as a retail media network, I think one of the things we want to be able to deliver is flexibility, and you've articulated it really well. There is that every brand, every supplier, without even adding the complexities of media agency relationships into there as well, is approaching retail media as an advertising channel very, very differently. So, some brands will want managed service, some brands will want self-serve, some will want a blend. And I think where we're trying to approach is be the most flexible and easiest to work with retail media network, be able to partner effectively with agencies in the way that you as a brand would want us to be partnering with them. And ultimately just allow us to have, a flexible operating model and show up in the way that you'd want a retail media network to show up. And I think that really does sort of counter some of the more rigid structures that occur at some of our competition's retail media networks that are managed by external third parties. And actually, we will always exist as an in-house retail media network, and we'll collaborate across our whole business to deliver that growth that I've been speaking about. So that's really at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Nick, how have you seen like the evolution of retail media in the last few years, and what made Zitcha successful in that equation?
I mean, retail media has been going for years within retailers, but I think the dawn of on-site in particular was the first channel, and obviously it stemmed from Amazon's activities. So I think it was also boosted by COVID, of course, with everybody driving to website instead of stores. So on-site has been the dominant channel since the start, but the other two channels are fast growing with interest. So, of course, off-site, whether that be with the walled gardens across Meta, Google, Trade Desk or other channels. But, of course, in-store at NRF earlier this year, there was a lot of conversation around the potential migration of 5% of linear TV budgets moving to the in-store digital screen networks across the retail media networks that exist in the US, and that's billions of dollars being shifted from a traditional format of advertising into the in-store environment. So I think we'll start to certainly see, and we already have, the combination of truly all three channels and what that looks like from mapping to a customer journey and being able to target customers far greater than we ever have before. And I think we're only having this conversation last night at an event that we hosted here in Melbourne. I think a lot of the retail media networks have looked at their media assets first. They're then looking at products that they sell. And I think, again, you only have to look at the market a lot of attention's now being turned to a better understanding of the customer, a better experience that media networks are providing their customers. And that's a combination of loyalty programs as the foundation, and then utilising customer data to better offer brands to provide the experiences back to the customers, which should be the heart of any retail media network.
That's the thing, right? I think that FMCGs were thinking of ways of like to be closer to the consumer. So I don't know if you remember DTC in the FMCG space to really like get consumer data. Retail media, which started like, even I have to admit, I was very skeptical about it. I thought it was a bit of a fad at the beginning, but it's really become that like way that everybody's decided that FMCGs can get really closer to the consumer and get that data. As the most pragmatic way has been retail media, because it's also brought together the retailer side and the brand side. By the way, Nick, when are you inviting me to one of your events that you're hosting in Melbourne?
You're always welcome, mate. We're doing one in London. I think it's the third week of September, and we'll have to do one in Spain. I think coming back to what we were just talking about before, and I heard this great quote at Shop Talk in Vegas earlier this year, that when you look at retail media, retail should be in caps and media should be in lowercase. And I think for me that continues to emphasise the focus on retail, but also the customer at the heart of it as well, and that shouldn't be lost.
In
consideration.
I mean, ultimately, it's still a brand retailer relationship, right? So the retail side obviously has a lot of influence independently from the media. And people must be wondering, why are Zitcha and Ocado on the podcast together? So this isn't a simple panel. So you guys have work that you're doing together. So how is Zitcha helping Ocado in their retail media journey? Which, excited to see the launch of this new network.
Yeah, so I think I'll take that, and Nick, you can give me your spin. I think it was probably a LinkedIn message about 16 months ago, I'd say. But yeah, I guess, we've always wanted to do something differently at Ocado, and I think, if I think about how the business has evolved, sometimes we've evolved quicker than actually sometimes our capabilities have. So we were looking over a retail media business that had a lot of fragmentation, a lot of booking processes that were sitting in different platforms, emails, Excels. I'm sure there's a ton of retailers and RMNs that can sympathize with the challenges that we were facing with running a quite complex retail media business. And we knew we needed to professionalize, and we knew we wanted to create a platform that wouldn't just solve for all the operational things, but actually delivers against that ambition of delivering that customer first brand growth that that Ocado Ads will stand for. And that's all around powering that flexibility of self-serve and managed service. So the Ocado Ads Manager, which we'll be launching as part of our Ocado Ads launch, which is powered by Zitcha, is something that we've partnered together on, have built together, and is built off our needs. And that was so important, finding a partner at that point in our journey, because there's a lot of off-the-shelf offerings from ad tech providers in the market, and we knew we wanted to build something ourselves. And Zitcha have been a brilliant partner in getting to understand what our workflows were, building a platform that then can power that, but also can deliver not just value for us, but value for our suppliers, because in the end of the day, they're the ones booking the media. They're the ones that will need to be sort of on board with the plans as well. So Ocado Ads Manager really is going to be the foundation of everything that we do in the future when it comes to our retail media business.
Yeah, and I think to extend on that, and I think it was you that sent me the message, not me sending it to you, Jack.
I don't know.
But Ocado has been a fantastic partner to build with. But what's really interesting is their problem, as Jack indicated, is not unique just to Ocado. We speak to retailers very often now that speak of their planning phase through whether it be joint business plan or other planning stages, utilising multiple different spreadsheets across multiple different stakeholders, trying to bring all of that together in one master spreadsheet, and it is arduous, and sometimes significant errors take place in that process, let alone taking that to the delivery against the activation channels as well. So it's been fantastic to build with Ocado, but it's a greater problem that we're now solving for the retail media category as a whole as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think for me, I think, when we have fragmented booking processes and things do get lost, I think for me it's detrimental not just to the supplier but to the customer. And we have to always remember our aim here is to deliver a brilliant tailored ad that a customer is going to engage with. And we always have to keep reminding ourselves, and the platforms and processes that we build to power that have to be able to deliver that. So, the Ocado Ads Manager powered by Zitcha is our solution to that. And we're really excited to launch that next month.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, we can't ignore the fact that Ocado is like a very specific type of grocer, that it's online first and online only. Is there like a specific spin that you're giving the retail media network, given that it's online only?
Yeah, well, I guess it delivers us a value proposition to advertisers that doesn't exist elsewhere. So if I had to give you one example of that, would be our data, right? So we don't rely on loyalty cards. We don't rely on gathering data through some other means, and we have brilliant coverage over our customer base. What that means is that we can deliver brilliant closed loop measurement. We have an amazing seed audience to use when we think about audience extension onto Meta. We have connections in with Trade Desk as well. So we have this amazing, rich first-party data that we will and will continue to champion. So some of the ways in which we're online only actually give us a flywheel effect from our retail media business as well. And that's really exciting. So that's one example. Probably the other example I would call out is our innovation and our test and learn culture. So, the idea that let's take MPD as a good example. So brands would have to potentially wait for range windows and potential arduous meetings with buyers in order to get a listing at a bricks and mortar store. We can get a product listed in 6 to 12 weeks. And we can create testing environments to help brands really understand how that product is launched. We can test media as part of that as well. So innovation, again, is really part of our DNA at Ocado Ads, and it's something which is only possible because of our really flexible online-only operating model.
Yeah, and I guess because talking about like test and learn and so on, I guess that the type of customer that shops at Ocado is like quite a specific demographic, no? That you can also test specific things on.
We have quite a wide demographic of shoppers that shop on our platform, and we wouldn't be growing at double-digit growth unless we were really sort of attracting that broad spectrum of customers. It will always be a unique audience, and I think especially when you think about some of our champion customers that are shopping every week with us, they are super valuable, and to be able to deliver insights and data that are attributed to this really super premium audience is incredibly exciting. So yeah, I guess that's how it ties in again with our retail media proposition as well.
And for you, Nick, having worked like with the likes of Coles, which is a regular supermarket, if you like with physical stores and so on, how are you approaching this like online only supermarket retail media network?
I mean, Jack spoke to a lot of it just then. Even as he's talking about the test and learn, I'm still amazed at their ability to stock a product for within 6 to 8 weeks. It's just an incredible model. In regards to how we're working just with Ocado and some of the advantages that they do have, it certainly is that closed reporting and not relying on in-store linkage back to results. And so we do have a product that is unique to us that Ocado is utilising, as one example being Meta Managed Partner Ads. We launched it back in November last year. We're the only retail media platform back then that was to build to their API. What that provides is the ability for suppliers to utilize either the retailer's handle or their own handle and direct the traffic back to the retailer. But additionally, it provides the ability to report at a SKU level. So Meta typically, and most other ad types, provide basket level reporting, whereas MPA provides the SKU level reporting as well as Halo products. So those that are in the product feed that were additionally positively impacted from that campaign. Now, traditional retailers that have bricks and mortar and e-com, unless they've got some sophistication around CAPI or otherwise, it's hard for them to report what's happened in store. Whereas, of course, Ocado isn't impacted with that, as Jack spoke to, of on-site only. So that's one example that we can get going, and we have got very quickly for MPA, and those additional advantages, particularly from a reporting perspective.
Yeah, from your perspective, Jack, how have Zitcha's planning capabilities helped you differentiate the retail media network?
Yeah, I think the key thing to remember with the Ocado Ads Manager is it built for Ocado, right? And it's bespoke to our needs and our workflows. And I think, Nick spoke to a little bit of this, and, speaking to other retailers, in other markets as well, this whole challenge around how do you power a brilliant planning process in collaboration with your suppliers, ultimately to result in brilliant advertising to customers, is a common challenge. And I think the more I speak to people with similar challenges, the more I realize they are all similar, but they all have their own nuance. So, I'm a full champion of anything that's powering, planning processes, and anything that people are using does still need to be adapted and needs to understand the nuance of each individual retail media business. And that's really where the power of Ocado Ads Manager will be, is the fact that it's built for those Ocado workflows. So, for our advertiser partners, our suppliers, it should be a seamless sort of step into what will just be an easier process.
And ultimately, entering in a super competitive space, while everybody's very excited about retail media, we do have sometimes like a feeling of community, like it is a rising tide for all boats, but ultimately we are competing for media dollars here. How do you think your joint effort will differentiate Zitcha's, how will Zitcha's technology help Ocado differentiate its offering, in terms of self-serve capabilities, agency integration, flexible testing opportunities for brands, and so on?
Yeah, from my perspective, the platform will be the core of what we do with our suppliers. And for me, it's all around collaboration. So I spoke a little bit earlier around that, the blend of self-serve and managed service. The premise of the platform will be that our advertiser partners will be able to go into the platform and manage their own media plans, but also the person on the other end that will be responsible from an Ocado perspective will also be able to go in and either create a managed service style operating model or be that point of contact for anything from a media planning perspective. So we're facing into the fact that I don't think there should be a trade-off between managed service and self-serve operating models. I firmly believe that you should be showing up to advertisers in a way in which they want you to, not the other way around. And I think from my perspective, this is about us, being a little bit of an antidote to some of the more rigid structures that occur at other RMNs. To reiterate the point, this is all about growth, and this is all about customer first brand growth. So if I'm a supplier or a brand, I'm looking at the fastest growing retailer in the UK, and I'm looking at, some of the platforms and systems that power that, i.e. the Ocado Ads Manager. And, I'm seeing that as a really compelling proposition. But you're right, a lot of retail media networks will be doing lots of similar things, and there's a lot of commonality, but where we want to be differentiated is, through the innovation I spoke about, through our amazing data and measurement, and then through some of these brilliant basics that we can deliver through technology. That's how we're going to stand apart from, some of our bigger competition in the market.
I think maybe to extend on that, and you touched on it just then, Jack, around data. And I think containing all of the metrics, whether they be the planning associated with a campaign or the results as part of a campaign, the standardization of data and the metrics associated with that, it is becoming a bottleneck for most retail media networks that are running point solutions across on-site, off-site, and those that have in-store. And so the standardization from the planning stage right through to the reporting and then to utilize that for optimization, I think is a huge opportunity for Ocado and any other that are considering housing all channels in one platform because of that standardization and the bottleneck, as well as Ocado is going to be able to utilize all of the data that resides within Zitcha in their own environment, that they can do other modeling that can, again, help better inform campaign planning and also performance.
So when are you actually launching the platform officially?
So the Ocado Ads Manager will be live with suppliers later this year. So we'll be announcing it at our supplier conference, which is on the 11th of September, which might be before or after you listen to this pod. But yeah, we're really excited, and you know, it's going to be a big milestone for us in our retail media business, and yeah, it's going to be a big 2025 for us.
Absolutely. I mean, Ocado Retail Media Network, it's like a no-brainer at the end of the day. So very excited about that. And what role do you see the Ocado ads playing in this evolving landscape of e-commerce and digital advertising?
Yeah, I think, you know, when we were doing this, we've done a lot of work, right? Of taking a step back and go, what is Ocado and what should Ocado Ads stand for? And I've spoken a little bit about the growth, the innovation, etc. And I think that is one side of it. But what I really, really want to be is the most flexible retail media business to work with in the UK, and a real home of test and learn and innovation. Those are the real things that I want Ocado Ads to be famous for. It ties into our DNA as a retailer for the last 20 odd years. And there's appetite within our business across all areas to represent ourselves like that. And I think we've been doing it in pockets, but this is about us really taking a step forward and being super loud, super proud about what we can do. But yeah, I want to be different, right? I don't want to be, a list of media types. I want to represent what should be a growth opportunity for brands.
Yeah, as a very unique retailer, you have the opportunity for that. What about you, Nick? How do you see that?
I think their model is just so unique, and the business is so innovative that I think this is really, without sounding cliche, this is just the start. I think there's so much opportunity for retail media as a whole, but I think for a retailer such as Ocado, the partnership that we have, I think we're transforming a process that has existed in the Ocado business for Jack, last 5+ years. So whenever there's significant change, there's huge opportunity, and I think we'll see not only improvements in process, but ultimately improvements in the customer experience at the other end. And I think that's what really excites the whole industry. And I think it's really just the start for Ocado. And I think they'll be the North Star for most retail media networks out there for a long time.
Great. Well, very excited about the launch again. Guys, this one question that we ask all our guests, which is, having the career that you guys have had, we'll obviously leave your LinkedIn profiles in the show notes so everyone can see your LinkedIn profile and how you've grown to your current positions. If you had to go back to your younger selves as you were entering the workplace, what would be that one piece of advice you would give yourself with everything that you've learned?
Nick will be a bit before me, I reckon.
I knew this question was coming, and it's a really hard question, actually. I think continue to connect with as many people and always add value. And I used to joke that Melbourne here in Australia is 2 degrees of separation, but really the world now is 2 degrees of separation. When I first met Jack, there's so many people here in Australia that have come from, Jack worked at dunnhumby. We've got so many people here in Australia that have worked from dunnhumby. So that's just one example of, it's 2 degrees of separation. It's on the global perspective now. And I think always add value, because it's always going to return in some way, shape or form. When you offer value to somebody else, whether it's that person providing it back to you or in association with others, I think you feel better for it as well. So I think they're probably my two for a younger Nick Hinsley.
What about the even younger Jack?
Even younger Jack, there you go. Yeah, I think there's a few. I think Nick actually touched upon it, which is like the power of community, network and connections, because it's really, personally for me, like it's paying back especially in the UK. I spent a long time at dunnhumby, built some amazing connections there. And actually there's an amazing sort of cohort of ex-dunnhumbians running sort of retail media businesses in the UK. You've got Tom Langley at John Lewis. You've got, Matt McLennan and John Beale at Asda. You've got a range of other people that are working at different businesses as well. So to be able to have that network to tap into is so valuable, because we all have our own, we will have our own challenges, but we also have, common ones as well. And there'll be common solutions to it. And, that's been really powerful. So I think definitely the power of community and network, I think is really, really great. And then I think just to go into a second one, I think as a younger self in more junior roles, like really proactively going after stuff, right? Not waiting to be asked to do something. And I think I see it in a lot of talented people within my team and within the broader business. But when someone really has that attitude, it does pay back. And it pays back over not just the short term, but over the long run. Because if you can have that as an attitude, you will be noticed for someone that gets stuff done and provides solutions to problems. Making sure that you just got that as a principle from day one, I think will pay back in your career.
Absolutely. I mean, having that drive, that innate curiosity, just being that person that brings ideas to the table. You know that someone is a bad manager when they don't like that, right? So
yes, correct. Yes.
So that's something that you can take as well. So guys, what a conversation. Like I have so many notes here, but I was gonna try to summarize it as well as I can. I mean, Ocado Ads, coming from like the world's largest online only supermarket, like how exciting can that be, With a partner like Zitcha, which, as I said, only been around for 4 years, but like they're one of the like only retail media platforms that plans, buys, uploads, creative. And yeah, that's what's made it so relevant in our industry. You run into Zitcha practically all the time. So I'm very curious to see what this partnership will bring. Specifically within Ocado Ads, you have the Ocado Ads Manager powered by Zitcha. So that's really the crossroads and the confluence we're going to see that joint potential. And what will we find there? We'll find very strong differentiation in terms of data, right? Like the data that Ocado will get and you'll be able to provide to clients, and that self-serve platform will, I think, be really a game changer for innovation, test and learn, new product introductions. Again, instead of going through like that cycle of arduous negotiations, and on Ocado, you can launch it in 6 to 8 weeks, right? So having that platform that helps you launch it with retail media, I think will make a difference. I love what you said, Jack, about it being an antidote to rigidness and then being like the most flexible retail media network, which I think, and you said, Nick, it will be like the retail media network that people will learn from. And that's where I think we're going. And that's like kind of the next frontier of retail media in terms on the retail side, which is being really strong in every part of the journey. So not being like on a one size fits all solution, but really like in a self-serving platform, like being very strong there, or in other capabilities. So having that flexibility to really give like the customers the best experience, I think that's where retail media networks are going. It's great to see that Ocado will launch with that in mind. And yeah, it's coming later this year. Date to be confirmed. So we'll be obviously taking a close look at that. So thanks, guys. This was, I tried to summarize it as well as I could. Again, I think it's one that will be worth re-listening to.
Great. Thank you,
Brilliant.
Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Nick. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys, and thanks to all our audience for tuning in again. And we'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG Guys every Wednesday and every Saturday morning. Have a great day.